Imagine for a moment that your soul chose your family before you were born, not randomly but with the precision of a master artist. Your soul looked at this life, at the challenges ahead, and decided, this is where I will grow, this is where I will awaken. And yet here you are, questioning why you were placed in a family that feels like a battlefield, in an environment that seemed to chip away at your spirit instead of protecting it. I've been there. You've been there. And here's the truth, being born into a toxic family is not a punishment. It's not karma coming back to haunt you. It's a gift, a monumental, life-altering, paradigm-shifting gift. But I know it doesn't feel like that. Not yet. So let's go deep together into the heart of this mystery and uncover the profound wisdom hidden within your pain. Toxic families are like fire. They burn, they hurt, and they leave scars. But they also forge. They temper your soul like steel. They strip away the illusions you might have carried about life being easy or fair, and they force you to confront the raw, unfiltered truth of the human condition. Toxic families are the perfect training ground for chosen ones because chosen ones are here to break cycles. You're not here to live a normal life, you're here to transcend. But why? Why would your soul choose to be born into a family that feels so broken? Let's start with this. The toxicity you were born into is not random, it's ancestral, it's generational, it's the accumulation of unhealed wounds, unspoken truths, and unconscious patterns passed down through your lineage. And you, my friend, were born to stop it. Think about that for a moment. Let it sink in. You were not born to fit in. You were born to stand out, to rise above, to heal, not just yourself, but the generations that came before you and the generations that will come after you. That's what makes you the chosen one. But here's the hard part. To break a cycle, you have to experience it. You can't heal what you don't understand. You can't rise above what you haven't faced, and so you were placed in the middle of the storm, not to drown, but to learn how to swim, not to suffer, but to awaken. Let me ask you something. When you look at your family, what do you see? Do you see anger, neglect, manipulation, control? And now the deeper question, where do you see that same energy in yourself? Because the truth is, toxic families don't just wound us. They mirror us. They show us the parts of ourselves we're too afraid to face. This is why it's a gift. Because in the fire of your family's dysfunction, you are given the opportunity to see yourself, to heal yourself, to transform yourself. And as you do, you transform the entire lineage. But let's not romanticize the pain. Let's not pretend it's easy. It's not. Being born into a toxic family is one of the hardest paths a soul can choose. It requires immense strength, resilience, and courage. It requires you to face rejection, betrayal, and sometimes even abandonment. But here's the thing. Every time you face it, every time you choose to respond with love instead of hate, with understanding instead of judgment, with compassion instead of anger, you are breaking the cycle. Ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped fighting your family and started seeing them as your greatest teachers? What if their toxicity was not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their pain? What if their inability to love you the way you deserve was not because you are unlovable, but because they don't know how to love themselves? This is where the shift happens. When you stop seeing your family as the enemy and start seeing them as wounded souls doing the best they can with what they have. When you stop asking, why are they hurting me? And start asking, what are they teaching me? That's when you begin to unlock the gift. Because here's the truth. Your family's toxicity is not your burden to carry. It's your invitation to heal. It's your invitation to remember who you are, beyond their projections, beyond their expectations, beyond their pain. It's your invitation to step into your power as a chosen one. But here's the catch. You can't heal your family. You can only heal yourself. And in doing so, you create a ripple effect that transforms everything. Let me share something deeply personal. When I was younger, I used to think that if I could just be good enough, successful enough, or strong enough, I could fix my family. I could save them. But the more I tried, the more I realized that saving them wasn't my job. My job was to save myself. My job was to break free from the patterns that were keeping me stuck. And as I did, something miraculous happened. The family dynamics began to shift. Not because I forced them to, but because I changed. This is the power of being a chosen one. You don't have to fight the darkness. You just have to shine your light. But let me ask you this. What does it mean to shine your light in the face of darkness? What does it mean to love yourself when no one else does? What does it mean to choose peace when chaos surrounds you? These are the questions you must answer. These are the questions that will guide you on your journey. And here's the most beautiful part. The moment you stop seeing your family as a curse and start seeing them as a gift, everything changes. The moment you stop resisting your path and start embracing it, you step into your power. Because the truth is, you were not born into a toxic family to be broken. You were born into a toxic family to rise, to heal, to awaken. Let's take a moment to go deeper. You see, there's something extraordinary that happens when a soul is placed in the midst of chaos, dysfunction, and pain. The wounds inflicted by a toxic family don't just leave scars, they leave openings. Openings for light to pour in, openings for awareness to awaken, openings for transformation to begin. But here's the paradox. Before you can see the gift, you have to confront the wound. And that's where most people get stuck. They resist the pain, they fight it, they run from it. But pain, especially the kind born from family, is not something you can outrun. It's something you must face head on. Think about the wounds you carry from your family. Maybe you were criticized so often that you began to doubt your own worth. Maybe you were ignored so thoroughly that you started to believe your voice didn't matter. Maybe you were controlled so intensely that you forgot how to trust yourself. Or maybe the love you craved was given with conditions, and you learned to equate love with performance, approval, or sacrifice. These wounds are real, they hurt, they shape you. But they are also the catalyst for your awakening, because every wound carries a lesson. Every scar carries a story, and every pain carries the potential for growth. Let me ask you this. When you think about the pain your family has caused you, what emotions come up? Is it anger, resentment, sadness? Now, the deeper question, what are those emotions teaching you about yourself? You see, chosen ones are not just here to heal their families, they are here to heal themselves. And the healing process begins when you realize that the pain inflicted upon you is not about you. It's about them, their wounds, their fears, their limitations. But somewhere along the way you internalized it. You made it about you. You took on their pain as your own. This is where the work begins. The work of separating yourself from the story your family has written for you. The work of reclaiming your identity, your worth, your power. But how? How do you heal from wounds that run so deep they feel like part of your DNA? How do you break free from patterns that have been passed down for generations? It begins with awareness. Awareness that the way your family treated you is not a reflection of your value. Awareness that their toxicity is not your destiny. Awareness that you are not here to repeat the cycle, you are here to end it. But awareness is just the first step. The real transformation happens when you begin to take responsibility, not for their actions, but for your healing. Let me share something profound with you. The moment you stop waiting for your family to change, the moment you stop waiting for them to apologize, to validate you, to love you the way you deserve, that's the moment you set yourself free. Because here's the hard truth: some people will never change. Some wounds will never be acknowledged. Some apologies will never come. And that's okay. Your healing does not depend on them. Your healing depends on you. Ask yourself, what would it look like to forgive your family, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace? What would it feel like to release the anger, the resentment, the bitterness, not because it excuses their behavior, but because it frees you from carrying the weight of it? Forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's not about condoning. It's about saying, I will no longer allow your actions to define me. I will no longer allow your pain to become my pain. I will no longer allow your toxicity to dictate my life. And this is where the gift becomes clear. Because as you heal, you awaken. As you release the pain, you remember your power. As you break free from the patterns of your family, you step into the fullness of who you are. But let's not sugarcoat it. It's a messy process. Healing is not linear. Awakening is not easy. There will be days when the weight of your family's dysfunction feels unbearable. There will be moments when you question whether you're strong enough to break the cycle. And in those moments, I want you to remember this. You were chosen for this. Not because it's easy, but because you are capable. Not because you deserve to suffer, but because you are here to transform suffering into strength, pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom. Let me ask you, what if the very things you see as your weaknesses, the scars left by your family, are actually your greatest strengths? What if the rejection taught you self-love? What if the neglect taught you independence? What if the pain taught you compassion? This is the alchemy of the chosen ones. We take the darkness we were born into and we turn it into light. We take the pain we were handed and we turn it into purpose. We take the cycles we inherited and we transform them into liberation, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who comes after us. Because here's the thing, your healing is not just about you. When you heal your entire lineage. When you break free, you show others that freedom is possible. When you step into your power, you give others permission to step into theirs. This is why toxic families are a gift, not because the pain is justified, but because the pain has purpose, and that purpose is awakening. So let me ask you this. If you knew that your family's toxicity was the very thing that would lead to your transformation, how would you view it differently? If you knew that every wound was an invitation to grow, how would you respond to it? Because the truth is, you are not a victim of your family. You are the catalyst for their transformation. You are not here to repeat their patterns. You are here to break them. You are not here to be defined by their pain. You are here to transcend it. And that, my friend, is the gift. Now that we've uncovered the purpose hidden behind the pain, let's dive into the path forward. Because the truth is, knowing you're a chosen one isn't enough. Knowing your toxic family was a gift doesn't automatically make the journey easier. The real work begins when you decide to take responsibility for your life and your healing. The real transformation happens when you choose to break free, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Let me ask you something. What does freedom mean to you? Not the kind of freedom that comes from cutting ties or walking away. That's just the surface. I mean true freedom. The kind where you no longer react to their words, their actions, their judgments. The kind where their opinions no longer control you, their dysfunction no longer defines you, and their toxicity no longer limits you. This is the path of liberation, and it starts with a single, powerful decision. The decision to stop living in reaction to your family and start living in alignment with your truth. But here's the thing about breaking free. It's not about running away. You can move to the other side of the world and still carry your family's wounds with you, because the chains that bind you aren't external, they're internal. They're the beliefs you've internalized, the patterns you've inherited, the stories you've told yourself about who you are and what you're worth. So the first step on this path is awareness. Awareness of the patterns, the beliefs, and the stories that are keeping you stuck. Ask yourself, what patterns from my family am I unconsciously repeating in my own life? What beliefs about myself did I inherit from their words or actions? What stories am I telling myself about who I am because of the way they treated me? For example, maybe you grew up in a family where love was conditional, given only when you achieved something or met their expectations, and now you find yourself constantly striving for perfection, chasing external validation, believing that your worth is tied to your achievements. Or maybe you grew up in a family where your voice didn't matter, where your feelings were dismissed, your ideas ignored, and now you find yourself afraid to speak up, doubting your intuition, suppressing your truth. These patterns, beliefs, and stories are the chains that keep you tied to your family's toxicity. And until you identify them, you can't break free from them. But awareness is just the beginning. The next step is healing. And healing is not about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before the wounds. It's about peeling back the layers of conditioning, stripping away the stories and reconnecting with the truth of who you are. Let me share something with you. Healing is not linear. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's a process of unlearning everything you thought you knew about yourself and rebuilding from the ground up. And it requires three things: self-love, self-compassion, and self-discipline. Self-love is the foundation. It's the radical act of choosing yourself, even when no one else does. It's the practice of honoring your needs, your boundaries, and your worth, no matter how your family treated you. It's the realization that you are enough, just as you are, without needing to prove anything to anyone. But self-love isn't always easy, especially when you've been conditioned to believe you're unworthy. That's where self-compassion comes in. Self-compassion is the gentle voice that says, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to not have it all figured out. It's the reminder that healing is a journey, not a destination, and that you don't have to do it perfectly. And then there's self-discipline, because let's be honest, healing is hard work. It requires you to show up for yourself every day, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's painful, even when it feels like nothing is changing. It requires you to make choices that align with your higher self, even when the old patterns are calling you back. Let me ask you this. What would your life look like if you lived every day as though you were worthy of love, respect, and happiness? What choices would you make? What boundaries would you set? What relationships would you let go of? Because that's the essence of breaking free. It's not about changing your family, it's about changing yourself. It's about stepping out of the role they cast you in and stepping into the truth of who you are. But here's the deeper truth. Breaking free doesn't mean abandoning your family. It doesn't mean cutting them off or refusing to speak to them, unless that's what's truly necessary for your well-being. Breaking free means detaching from their energy, their expectations, their narratives. It means loving them from a place of wholeness, not obligation. It means seeing them for who they are, flawed, wounded, imperfect human beings, and choosing to rise above their pain instead of being consumed by it. And here's the most beautiful part. As you heal, you become a mirror. You reflect back to your family what's possible. You show them that transformation is possible, that freedom is possible, that love is possible. You may never hear them say it, but your healing will inspire them. Your light will awaken something in them, even if they don't know how to express it. Let me ask you, what if your greatest act of love for your family is not fixing them, but becoming the fullest, freest version of yourself? What if your healing is the very thing that plants the seed of change in them, even if it takes years or lifetimes to bloom? This is the path of the chosen ones. It's not an easy path. It's not a glamorous path, but it's a path of purpose, a path of transformation, a path of liberation. So as we come to the end of this journey together, I want to leave you with this. Your family's toxicity is not your destiny. It's your training ground. It's the fire that forges you. It's the soil in which your soul grows. And every time you choose to rise above it, every time you choose to heal, every time you choose to love yourself in the face of their dysfunction, you are fulfilling your purpose as a chosen one. You were not born into a toxic family by accident. You were born into it because you were strong enough to transcend it, because you are wise enough to learn from it, because you're brave enough to heal it. And as you walk this path, remember, you are not alone. There are millions of chosen ones out there, just like you, breaking cycles, healing wounds, and rewriting their destinies. Together we are creating a new world, one where love, compassion, and truth are the foundation. So ask yourself one final question. If you fully embraced your role as a chosen one, if you fully stepped into your power, what kind of life would you create?